You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Back. Welcome back, everyone, to Let's Fly, a BQN Hive Mind production directed by Jonathan Frakes. I'm back with you here after a brief 2-week hiatus. I was traveling in London for work, but thank you so much to Amy and Christos for hosting the show and doing such a beautiful job, probably a better job than me over the last couple of weeks. But I'm back for the penultimate episode, Legrange Point, which I don't know, I think that's a tennis reference. I'll talk about it with the panel when they come on. For the uninitiated out there, Let's Fly is the BQN Hive Minds exclusive limited run series where each week we recap, we unpack, we dissect the latest episode of Star Trek Discovery's final season. So if you are watching this live or on the replay or listening to the audio podcast and you have not watched Legrange Point yet, please go away. I wouldn't normally tell you to do that, but come back after you've watched the episode because we will be discussing almost every tiny little thing that happens. If you're watching live today and you're in the YouTube chat, please interact with us and share your thoughts along the way. We will share them here live and interact with you. I can see we've got Kevin and Jerry in there already, primed and ready to discuss this very exciting episode. And remember, if you are a BQN Network patron or you're interested in becoming a BQN Network patron, you can actually be on the show next week for the finale. You just have to sign up to be a network patron for as little as $1 to $2, depending on which currency you're paying in. You can be a part of the panel. Just head over to patreon.com/BQN. All right. I am going to introduce our panel because I think we need to dive straight into it. So who have we got here today? We've got Matt Harker. We've got Peter from the Trek Book Club, and we've got the fabulous Jim McMahon. Welcome, everyone. It's so good to see you. A small panel today. I'm told there's some holiday in the US this weekend, and people don't want to sit at home on a Zoom call with me. Rude.
Yes,
rude.
We still have someone stuck in the accretion disk.
We do, yes, there is. Which is, that sounds really kind of dirty to me, the accretion disc. So we'll let that lie, shall we? We are going to be joined. Amy Nelson is going to join us at some point. She's messaged me and said she is running to get home so she can join us. So keep an eye out for Amy. Now, before I whip around the panel here and get your initial impressions of the episode, I just want to jump in and say that one of our usual panelists, Jonathan Snow, is in the chat and said, a Lagrange point is a position in space where the gravitational forces of two large bodies balance each other out, creating a point of equilibrium for smaller objects. So not a tennis reference like I thought it was. Oh, well. All right, let's get some impressions. Initial impressions of the penultimate episode of Star Trek Discovery. I'm going to start with my good friend Matt Harker, because I know you've got some thoughts. You've got some strong thoughts. Oh, sorry, we can't hear you, Matt. Oh.
Sorry about that. Hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. This episode, honestly, it didn't feel like an episode, like a penultimate episode to me. It felt a bit more in terms of, the ramping level of tension more like an episode 6 or 7. You know, in a 10 episode run, I expected a bit more from it. I enjoyed it, but I expected more.
I think you got to keep in mind that it was not originally written to be the penultimate episode of the entire series, right?
That's what I was just thinking.
Well, even of a season, though, just a regular season, I just felt like, for example, last season, season 4 with the 10C, that was a lot more intense at this stage of the game. So that's the only observation.
I see what you're saying. I normally find sometimes the penultimate episodes in a season-long arc like this sometimes better than the finale, because the finale there's always so much expectation behind it. But I don't know. Let's whip around. Jim, what did you think?
Well, I thought this was. Well, I do kind of agree with Matt. This was kind of like. It didn't really feel like a penultimate episode, but it also was, in my opinion, one of the best episodes of the season to date so far. Maybe it's possibly because it was a Jonathan Frakes directed episode, since he's so experienced in directing Star Trek. That might be that. Because I mean, up to this point, yes, I've liked most of the episodes of the season, but I've also in most of those episodes had to stop and start just to get through them, because my attention has wandered at times. In this episode, my attention didn't really wander at all. I was focused on it the entire time and got through it in just one sitting without doing anything else. So it really was a fantastic episode overall.
It certainly was exciting. There was there was very few beats that were missed. Maybe some, but I'll talk about those later. Peter, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I like this episode. I saw it as a transitional episode, because I think this, it wasn't the focus on the puzzle and the riddle or the quest or the clues that the first 8 episodes was. I think this was the kind of like the beginning, of the wrap up, and then how it's going to conclude the season and the show. So it was I mean, I enjoyed it. I think similar to what Jim said, it kept my attention, especially I think the second half of the episode. I liked it, and all the action and visual effects and to me, a few of the little surprises that came in, mainly related to the portal. So yeah, so it was good. I think in a way, because it is a part 1 of 2, in a way, once we see next week, I'll kind of maybe reevaluate how this one is once we know sort of the full story of these 2 episodes. But overall, I enjoyed it.
So, Matt, I wonder if you have an explanation for why whenever we see the words directed by Jonathan Frakes at the beginning of a Star Trek episode, we know we're in for a good time.
Well, I mean, Frakes as a director, 2 takes Frakes, or as I heard last night on another podcast, for Frakes' sake. Really enjoyed that. I mean, if anyone's going to know what they're doing with a set of characters, a universe, I mean, he's a very accomplished director. So I get excited whenever I see his name, on an episode, because you're going to get something that's very well thought out and meaty, which I think this one definitely was.
Yeah, and there's a love of his love of the franchise. He gets the franchise. He knows how to get the best from his actors, and even if he's just dealing with he's got a pocket of this overall story, but when you watch it, you're like, this feels like Frakes. I don't know what that is, but it feels like Frakes to me. Jim, I agree with that. Jim, you kind of mentioned as well, you were excited about this being a Jonathan Frakes episode. Is there anything else you kind of want to add to what makes a directed by Jonathan Frakes episode so special?
No, I think it's also the fact that even though it's the second to the last episode of the entire series, and we're expecting it to be boom, 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 action all the way, he still managed to find the comedic beats at different times throughout the episode, and it didn't feel like he was missing anything either. Like, what was the scene where it was like Reese and Adira are like trying to find the weak point on the bridge so they can hack into the system, and they like find the ensign, and and Adira says like, always pick on the ensign.
Jonathan in the chat just pointed out something really interesting, and that is that Frakes directed The Chase, the TNG episode, which is the foundation for this entire season. Now, I want to pick up actually on something else that Jonathan is saying about the episode. You know, it was great, fast-paced, but it feels like there's still so much story to tell, and only one episode left to tell it in. Peter, I wonder, do you kind of agree with that? Do you disagree? How do you feel about that thought?
I mean, I do tend to agree to what Jonathan said. Over the course of especially the first 8 episodes, you know, there were all these different threads, like Culber, you know, like the Culber from Janal, and that was kind of left a little bit open at the end of that episode, and then we were saying, oh, you know, they'll cover it, you know, by episode 10, and then of course you have the lock and what's going to happen to him, and then you have, you know, the portal, and then what's going to happen to the Breen. So in a way, all these threads have been, you know, left to be concluded, but now that we're up to the last episode, it may, or some may not. So I guess given the last watching episode 9 and how that sets up the second half of the finale, I don't know if all the threads that have been part of season 5 will be either concluded, you know, satisfactorily. I mean, we'll just run out of time. I think it's like 80 minutes or 85 minutes, which is the length of the last episode. So because of that extra, you know, that extra 20, so it's going to be longer than the 55 or 60. But I think they may end up kind of focusing on the portal and the Breen, and then some of the other threads may or may not.
Probably the reshoots.
Resolved.
I think that 85 minutes is probably the reshoots to give it an ending. But Matt,
They're still going to need a movie after the fact, in my opinion.
yeah. Matt, you're chomping at the bit there. I can see.
Yeah, always. No, just this morning I happened to listen to Sean Ferrick's latest Trek Culture, where he interviewed Wilson Cruz, and Wilson unfortunately mentions that he was off shooting a movie when they were doing the reshoots for the end. He is present. He says he's there in a fashion. So I'm hoping it's more than a Tasha Yar treatment, you know, in the finale or in the, you know, the wrap up episodes of Picard.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he's not available. But he also
they probably got him for a day, and that's it.
Well, he had another gig, and he's like, hey, you know.
Well,
Sign
isn't that just the theme of this entire season? Because I mean, returning this episode fresh from the set of Hocus Pocus 2, is,
right?
I mean, I bet he's glad he was doing that instead of.
And on that note, I hope we find out whatever the heck that Emily Coots and forget the actress who plays Owo were up to for
some kind of independent film, is what I've heard.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you have heard something
along those lines. That's what I've heard anyway. I mean, whether that's true or not, who knows? But I mean, because I was not going to let anything taint my memory of Hocus Pocus, so I have not watched Hocus Pocus 2, and I feel like there's a bit of one, I was so glad to see Saru back this episode, but I feel like the way they've ended this season, because they didn't know it was going to end, there's such a disservice to some of these incredible characters.
Very true.
That's why they need like an additional like feature film just to like end it all after all of this.
Well, the other reason I brought up the Wilson Cruz point is, I think, Peter, you mentioned that the Janal thread was kind of left open. In Wilson's interpretation, it was really if you remember during Janal, there was the comment that was made that it can leave you a bit unsettled after was it Jintara, that experience, where you allow him to inhabit. And after Janal, we got the talking to his abuela, the spiritual thread that kind of he's been on for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of the continuation of the Janal thread. It's just more that Janal storyline went elsewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
The spirituality.
Thanks for the clarification. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really good interview. It's about 45 minutes. I would recommend it.
Okay. So speaking of the return of Saru, Jim, were you happy to see him back? It seems like he's being brought back in for the finale, so he must have that entire chunk in the middle of the season where he's just gone. But
Yeah,
it was good to see him back.
When he was lying on the floor, when he was lying on the floor unconscious, when the time bug was wreaking havoc on the ship.
Yeah.
But yes, I am. Yeah, but yes, I am glad to finally see him back. But thank God the Hocus Pocus 2 press finally let him go.
Because the commercial and critical success that was, but we won't go too much into that right now. Look, it was good to see him back, and it was good to see the president back, and picking up on the storyline of the impending wedding and all that kind of stuff. But I wonder, Peter, what do you think where do you think we're going with Saru? It feels like do you think we're just going to get a wedding and that's it, or is there more story for Saru to tell before this season's over?
I mean, I think the wedding will be part of that, the epilogue section. So I think we'll get that. I think for this, I know at the end of episode 9, Saru volunteered to go on that mission on that shuttle to try to convince the Primarch, the next one that's
the other
Primarch. So I think the other one, the other big threat. So I think that may be for episode 10. That might be his scenes. Will be focusing on that, that part of it. But I don't know. I mean, and it's just like you mentioned. It's just given the amount of time and the things that needs to be wrapped up. I don't know if he will have a major part in episode 10. It could be just him, taking the shuttle, talking to them, and maybe and then helping Michael's mission from afar. So that would be Saru's contribution. And so it'll be an important one, I think, and it'll be very helpful. But I think it's just the amount of time. I think that maybe, sort of all the time that's available for him in the last episode. But I hope we do get that wedding, I was really happy to see him back. And I think with episode 9, I think just listening to Saru and Doug Jones, the character, it kind of, that was what was missing the last 3 or 4 episodes. So it was kind of nice to have that, that Saru character and that characterization back in this one.
Yeah, definitely. And we are getting a little bit more, I think, of the romance between him and Tarina, which we were all eating up at the start of the season. But I wonder, I kind of felt like, because he'd been missing the whole season, that it just was hitting some of the same beats in terms of that relationship. Although I did like the cute little... Well, Vulcans aren't the only ones capable of making decisions based on logic and prioritizing duty. Matt, what did you think of Saru's return?
I agree with you on the point about hitting the same beats, but there was more of that deepening of the romance. You could see how close Saru and Tarina had become. I've just a moment ago, her little chin grab at the end of the scene where she hit the middle of his chin. I thought that was cute. At first, I wasn't getting or here for the romantic side of Tarina. It just felt like a bit of too much of a departure for a Vulcan. But I've warmed up to it. I'm very much interested in it now. And Peter, to your point about not being enough time, if they do anything in that finale, I would say they would have to give us a wedding, especially if the show is going to be wrapping up. Even
Mhm.
if they didn't know it at the time, I mean, God forbid there's a cliffhanger with Saru, with the other Breen Primarch, leaving us in suspense. They would have had to have gone back and corrected that. You're not ending the series without giving us a wedding. My gosh, we would riot.
Mhm.
But I find myself wondering, where they're not going to leave Saru just as being married to Tarina. He's going to. I hope that his happy ending, or whatever turns out to be, is something along his continued growth path.
Yeah.
I mean, we got action Saru this season.
Oh,
not
yeah.
that I would see a return to that, but I would like to see him. I don't know. I mean, yes, he's an ambassador, and we have a president. We have, Admiral Vance. But I'd like to see him continue. I don't know. Would he become, even higher up in Kelpian government? Something. I'd like to see him continue to evolve, because we've just seen so much growth from him from where he started in season 1.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Matt, but I certainly don't want it to be like what I'm seeing here in the chat with Jonathan suggesting that Saru dies and sacrifices himself.
I was going to pick that one up too. Yeah. Do we think that someone's going to die, right? Someone's going to die. Like, I feel like it's
I
gonna
thought it
happen.
was going to be Reese.
Oh, okay.
No. He seems to be having Reese's this is his best season. A lot of Reese this
Yes,
season.
I love seeing him on the away team in action, taking out the Breen.
Yeah, Jerry's also suggested, Jez in the chat said, like, if Saru does die, then remember the progenitor's tech is supposed to bring people back to life, right? So, well,
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't think the progenitor's tech will bring people back, but that's just my theory.
Well,
God, I hope not.
I mean, let's think about this. We have Locke. We have, whoever could potentially bite it in the finale. I mean, they've got to bring back Quajon. We talked. I mean, that was on last week's episode. The cut of the world route. They're not going to introduce something like that and not. That would be cruel. I think it would be easy, a little too easy, yes, but I could certainly see Book getting a new Quajon back or something.
And I think maybe they're setting up that there'll be some unexplainableness about the progenitor's tech, because there's a lot about faith. You know what I mean? Like, because to me, as a a fairly atheist individual, I kind of think like just there needs to be some scientific explanation for how it can recreate a whole world and all the life on it. But I think they're leading us into a bit of a have faith, you can't explain everything kind of scenario. Maybe that's just me. I wanted to pick up on something you said before as well, Matt, where you were talking about how it takes you a while to warm up to the romantic side of a Vulcan. I've often had challenges with this because, I mean, post TNG and Voyager and all that, and probably since Enterprise, there's always been experiments with having Vulcan emotions, right? When we barely ever saw it before with Spock and all that, unless something was very wrong with him. I think what it comes down to with that is there's something, it's the talent of the actor to be able to portray the fact that emotion is there without betraying the essence of the character.
Well, I will give it to the casting people for Star Trek, though. Damn, do they know how to cast people who can portray that emotion, though?
Yeah, some better than others. I think Tarina's doing the actor playing Tarina is doing a very, very good job. There's a softness there, like, and always just that little hint of a smile will come up, but then it'll flatten again, right? So just sort of saying, they obviously experience love and romance. Like the emotion is there. It's just
right
how it's expressed.
I would agree with
outwardly.
you on that. Since like, if you think about it, like Tim, Jolene, even Leonard, all could do that, and you could see it on their faces too. But you're right about how like some people, like some of the recurring Vulcans, couldn't necessarily do that necessarily, or even show it.
Yeah. Let's jump along in the plot a little bit and move into a bit of the action. Sorry, this is the best screenshot of this I could find. This is the accretion disc. A fun scene. And there was a lot of fun scenes throughout this episode like this. Yeah, Peter, how did you find this kind of, did you feel this kind of set the pace for the rest of the episode? How did you find the escaping from the black hole?
Yeah, no, it did. I think that was kind of like one of the first action sequences for this episode, and it was a sort of a sign of things to come, especially at the end, like I mentioned before. So I think that was good. I mean, it was kind of exciting, and it had that sort of that camera moving across the bridge and all the different stations that it seems to be like a Discovery style over the years. So it had that. And I was actually, I think for that scene when they identified the portal that was on the Legrange point, then I was just thinking like try to Discovery trying to get it, but then the Breen got it so quickly and then they escaped for us. I was surprised on that little bit of it, but that was good. And a little bit of a semi-tangent, but the Legrange point was the James Webb Space Telescope, which is the telescope that NASA, I think it was NASA, but they about a year ago they were sending it into space, and it's actually in one of the Lagrange points. I think between Earth and the Sun. It might be L2, but
I think it's the Earth and the Moon.
Oh, the Earth and the Moon. Okay, thank you for So so that Lagrange point was the first time I ever heard of that terminology. So when this episode, the name of these episode titles was released, before the season started, I said, "Oh, that's interesting." So I'm wondering how that will connect. So, but it was the James Webb Telescope that they used that, and now because it's not the telescope is not like close to the Earth's atmosphere, it's out much more, out into space, they could get clearer pictures. There's a lot of other technology, but clearer pictures of deep space. So that was a little nice semi connection to this episode. But yeah,
Earth apparently has 5, and I'm going to keep calling them Lagrange points, according to Jonathan. So we had the progenitor's tech, for which is what we're calling it, the little shuttlecraft-sized container sitting in the Lagrange point between these two black holes. Bit of a gamble, don't you think, Matt?
This scene, I was all over the place with random thoughts during this scene. I mean, this shot with Discovery and Tilly and the math to escape, awesome. Like, so cool. Love that part. And the mention of them being primordial black holes, which I believe means going back to the beginning of the universe. Let's say they've been there that long. That means they got a lot bigger over time because they're huge. I believe the encasement that the portal is in was not original, right? We find out through the episode that was put there by the scientists around it. Is that true?
Yeah. Just a portal to, as Jonathan describes it, the actual thing, whatever the actual thing is.
But I would think that, my goodness, stuck between two black holes, that thing has been there during the going back to the beginnings of the universe, or at least whenever the progenitors, whenever they existed, which was, before all other life. It struck me as a bit odd, but I went with it. And then, Discovery is extremely small, but that juggernaut or dreadnought is so massive, and it just shoots right up, grabs it.
I had an issue with that too, Matt. You're not the only one.
And then, fine. Discovery is small. That thing is the Titanic, and it's just able to deal with it. And like it got through the nebula to the archive unscathed, where Discovery was almost destroyed. Like, So many thoughts.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
it's-
not the only one that had an issue with with the brain dreadnought just suddenly out of nowhere warping in
Just like,
through all that gravity issues, like with no problem, and yet Discovery, the little tiny ship, like barely survives.
right.
And how have the Breen just not steamrolled over the entire Alpha Quadrant before? They seem unbelievably powerful, and
Yes.
they see everyone else as maggots. Basically, it's a bit intense. It's a bit
Agreed.
intense.
Yes,
Yes.
this is the brain from like Deep Space Nine. They were like on a level on an even par technological and ship level with like the Federation and the Dominion and everyone else. Like it was a pound. It
Oh,
was
they
a
were
pound for pound.
a little bit ahead, a little bit. Like
But it was still close enough. Like that
yeah.
that they could duke it out and either side could win it.
hmm
Here, I don't see how they could have made such a huge technological advance in 900 years, where it's like they're the Empire from Star Wars, and everyone else is like the Resistance fighters in their tiny X-wings.
Yeah. So
Sorry for the Star Wars reference in a Star Trek thing.
well,
folks.
there was a Star Wars reference in this episode because they
Oh, yeah,
they
totally.
flew into the exhaust port, right? The exhaust port.
Okay, I did not pick up on that.
Was the weak spot. So there was. I want to pick up on. I'm going to park that because I actually feel there was a lot of little references to other sci-fi, not just in this episode, but throughout the whole season. But I want to pick
Yeah.
up on that a bit later. I wonder. So we've got. Let's just kind of talk about the fact that we've got this tech now, right? So, and they came in, they knew where it was, fine. But what about the clue that, or the little phrase that Burnham has, which will apparently unlock it? Now, can anyone remember what that? It was like, you need to form the many to something of the one, or something along those lines. Oh, now chat if you know what that quote was. But go, Peter.
Speaking of the chat, Jonathan did say about our previous little thing: with size comes stability. With size comes stability.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Sorry, Peter. What were you going to say about the quote?
I mean, the quote I think is build the shape of the one between the many, something like that. Build the shape of the one between the many.
There was something about building the one. I remember that. And then it, which has, oh my goodness, the Vulcan reference. The good of the many outweighs that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can't think of it.
So they open it up and it's a portal, right? So poor red shirt Breen just gets sucked right in, right? I don't know. What do we think is on the other side, Matt?
Oh, well, okay. We know it's a interdimensional portal to somewhere else, which in and of itself is a bit strange. So if they removed it from the dimension, maybe it's this dimension, maybe it's because they knew it was as powerful as it was to create life. And I will say, I've caught in the original trailer, where they did the sneak peek of the ISS that you saw when that showed up, there were a couple of flash scenes where next week Maul is leaping across something, like almost like it kind of looked like she's in silhouette and she's leaping across the scene.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, it's very, very fast. But what the tech is, what's on the other side of the portal, I mean, who knows? Maybe it is similar to Kovach's Infinity Room.
Maybe.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if they were in the wormhole and Cisco just suddenly appeared?
there's a lot of people out there who that's it in their minds. There is some DS9 emissary, wormhole aliens connection because there's been so much DS9 in this season. We've had the Breen. We've had numerous references to the Dominion War. We've had a random one-off DS9 character or alien species reappear as the first officer. There's so many people out there who are hoping, for better or worse, for some kind of DS9 connection. I was wondering, is this some portal to where the progenitors went to, right? Because where did they go? Is this some kind of Stargate SG-1 Ascension of the Ancients kind of thing?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like they're actually.
You said the A word.
I know everyone's like, "Oh God, Burnham's going to become a god." Jim, why do you think that would be a good outcome?
It would definitely be interesting and different than than I think what we've been predicting the entire season.
Yep.
And it would definitely go against the whole most of the DS9 things we've been seeing all season, especially since we know it's not going to be the emissary showing up, since Avery has pretty much said he's never going to make another appearance on Star Trek ever again.
Bless his heart. Peter, what about you? What are your thoughts on what's on the other side of the portal?
I mean, the first thing I thought of is what you mentioned before about Kovic's room. So it's that, that white background that was given hints of in this episode. So I thought, I don't know, it's probably crazy and it's probably not going to happen, but it's somehow I thought those two were connected in some way. And so that was at least the first thing that popped into mind. I mean, Star Trek has this thing about, white room background over the years. So like, I know, like
Tapestry.
TNG had one,
Yeah.
Tapestry, right?
Yeah.
Tapestry, and of course the DS9 had it, and Lower Decks had it. So
Yep. Oh, I think we lost a little bit of Peter there, but that's okay. He's
I
right
love
though.
his pose.
I know, love that pose. We'll just let him. We'll talk about for a second.
We're getting the card going.
Yeah, he's crossed over. He's ascended. Oh my God, Peter,
Right.
come back. Yeah, I want to jump now because we've got Mole up on the screen here, right? So she's become boss of the Breen pretty quickly, right? They're all like, and what's driving that loyalty? Is it because that they believe she'll
I
bring
think they're all
Messiah?
afraid of her.
Yeah, well, how so?
Did you see how like crazed she was throughout the episode to like achieve her goal? If I were near her, if I were like an underling of her, I'd be like, "Yes, ma'am, I'll do whatever you want, ma'am. And then I'd try and stay as far away from her as possible."
But she has elements of some kind of humanity to her, right? Because she did not want the previous Primarch to enter into a war or any kind of needless loss of life or anything like that, right? They're very much, I mean, her entire focus is Locke. Like, she does actually not give a shit about the progenitor's technology and what that could give her. All she wants is her boyfriend back, right?
Yeah.
She's not about power. She's not. This is the interesting thing about her character. Go, Matt.
Well, is it interesting, or does she only exist because of him? She. Well, I guess she does now that he's gone, but I feel like the entire season she was kind of written that way until his passing. I know you guys, I know Amy and the crew talked about this last week. I did not like how the Breen just rolled over and decided to, follow her. And I know that that's not Frakes' choosing. He directs, he doesn't write necessarily. But this is a part of the season that not a fan of.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and I think when in the final episode, if they do bring Locke back, she might not like what she gets.
Yeah, that's
And I agree with you, Jim, because when Locke, before his passing, he didn't want the power of the Scion. He stepped away from his family. She's now elevated him into a position where he has no choice but to lead his people. So unless he has some type of awakening on the other side before he gets yanked back by the tech, where he changes his whole outlook, she may be putting him in a position that he may be trapped by.
it is the speed in which she rose to sort of command is kind of hard to take when you know that they're very hierarchical. I can't talk this morning, but they're also incredibly xenophobic. They don't, they have these. The whole point of their suits is almost because they don't want anything to do with other races. Are they that devoted to their scion that that they'll blindly follow a human? Or sorry, no, she's from Quajon. Sorry, in terms,
She is
she from Quajon or is she human, or does she just have to say I don't?
she's human.
She's human. She's not from Quajon.
I don't think she's from Quajon. Yeah.
No. Okay. I
Anyway.
stand. I stand.
No, the only
corrected.
reason the only reason Book is so emotionally attached to her is because whoever trained him as a courier, that was
Booker.
that was her father.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. I think whatever we have in store for Mole is going to, and I am willing to bet it is when we're all back here next week discussing whatever the outcome was, it's going to be divisive AF.
Oh yeah. And I keep hoping Peter comes back because I have something else Breen related that is beta canon from the books that I'd love to see if that's on his radar at all. But we'll wait and see. If
Peter, are you with us?
He's trying.
He's trying.
There we go.
There we go.
Sorry. Yeah.
So Peter, I've been waiting for your return. I'm curious. Did you read the Section 31 novel series?
The Section 31.
Yeah. There was one with Picard on the cover, one with Seven, one with Julian Bashir.
I don't think I read. I think I read one of the Section 31, one of the earlier ones. I think it was sheer focus, but that was about it. Yeah.
If you acknowledge that this is probably going to be the last time we're going to see the Breen for a while, I mean, this is the Breen season. We won't get any more of them probably for a while, I would think. Go back and read that Section 31 book. I think it's the one with Julian on the cover.
Is that the one where he goes undercover in the Breen?
Into the Breen, yes. And
okay.
To Davy's point, and I know beta canon isn't canon necessarily, and do we really care? Whichever. But to the point of them being xenophobic, the angle in that book in that book is that Breen culture and the reason for the suits wasn't necessarily because of the hyper cold jello thing, the gelatinous nature of their bodies. It was because they are an imperium, kind of a conquering race, where let's say the vassal cultures that they absorb into the imperium, everyone's treated equally, and that's the reason for the suits, because they all look the same. So it's a different dimension on the Breen culture than we get in this, but I like how it just gives it more breadth. So I would recommend that book.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I remember reading that book, but I don't know if I ever finished it or not. I just remember it was
really good.
I remember it was like Bashir and Serena Douglas going undercover.
Yeah. Yes. And I would say that whole series, I think, is a good companion. The Section 31 series is a good companion for Discovery in the sense that it touches on control.
Okay.
Going back to season 2. So
I'm going to pick up
I
on
do remember that.
I'm going to pick up on the undercover element of that to jump ahead to the next part of the plot, which was the
Nice
Ocean's
segue, baby.
the Ocean's 11 of Star Trek Discovery. I was waiting for Adira to go, "You son of a bitch, I'm in." And they're all like, and can we talk for a minute about the Tony Stark Iron Man view of them inside
Yes,
the
I loved
breathe
that.
suits?
I
Go
know
back.
they had to do something like that, but I found yes, and I couldn't wrap my head around what it was. It was totally Tony Stark, but I found it disorienting and a little weird.
Yeah, because they're having
anyway,
two conversations at the same time whilst they're in
3.
those. Yeah.
With the 3.
I'm interested to hear everyone else's thoughts. I kind of enjoyed the whole predictable undercover heist, right? You know that they're going to get found out and it's not going to work out and all that kind of stuff. But it was fun. Like the execution of it was fun with a few exceptions. The classic Discovery stopping to talk about their feelings in the middle of, I was like, no. Like when Burnham stops to like have that D&M with Book in the middle of all that, I'm like, no. Matt, did you find that as painful as I did?
Yes. In a word, yes. I mean, I know we have different opinions on the pacing and the level of tension of the episode. I feel like that particular scene was an anchor around the pacing of the episode. It completely pulled me out of the suspense of what the whole season was building towards, in terms of you're chasing the power of creation, trying to get it back. You're undercover, and you're having a personal moment. Really?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a bitter pill to swallow in that regards. Look, that was probably the only bit I didn't really like. What do we think of, Adira's kind of big moment though, right? It was this whole like, so you're coming on this mission and you get the kind of fatherly thing with Stamets and Culper. Jim, did you think that this was a worthwhile, triumphant moment for Adira to kind of round out their... They've had a bit of an arc since they made the mistake of bringing the time bug on board. Was this kind of Adira's final redemption in a way?
Oh yes, I love. Oh yes, I love I love their whole angle in this episode. Like earlier when I mentioned the whole comedy bit with when Adira and Reese picked out the crewman on the bridge who they found was the lower rank, and then Adira was like, the Galactic Classic always pick on the ensign. Like I love that she was they were the one that came up with that. Like and plus the fact that they brought down the shields like at the right moment, right at the end there.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was Adira's kind of big moment, the ability to hack the brain code and all that kind of stuff. It was a real celebration of what a brilliant scientist and engineer and just all-round amazing officer that they are. Matt, what did you think of Adira's kind of golden moment in this episode?
I definitely enjoyed it because Adira seemed, who, by the way, Blue Del Barrio is 27.
All right.
Which shocked me. Anyway, that lack of confidence that the time bug incident created, that was very hard for them to shake. I really, and Rayner pumping Adira up and trying to help them overcome that. So, saying it's not your fault, giving Adira the chance. I really liked them kind of coming into their own. I said a moment ago about the Book and Burnham aside. I felt like when Adira was hacking the Breen,
Mm.
that they were really kind of like stuck into the the multi-part conversation that was happening between all their helmet cams.
Yeah.
I'm like, just focus and get on with it. Like, bring down the shields already. They seem to get a little caught up and hey, nerves, you're an ensign, in a high pressure situation. But it just created that scene there with Reese, which the Reese part we can set aside because that was pretty cool. And I thought we were going to lose him for a minute.
Yeah.
Which would have been so traumatic if we did. That sequence kind of goofed up the pacing for me as well.
Okay. There was some interesting little bits of kind of comedic relief throughout the tension of that whole thing, because I really enjoyed the whole latter half of this episode. I was kind of on the edge of my seat a little bit, but then there was some very... Discovery's done some of its comedy moments really quite well this episode and throughout this whole season. And one of my favorites was the distraction that Book was causing, where he kind of wound up flirting and getting invited out on a date with one of the Breen who...
I almost wanted to see the oil bath.
Why did he go there? Because he's just like, so maybe you and I can go together. I was cracking up.
I need to go back and rewatch that scene with subtitles on, because I think I got the gist of the dialogue, but I couldn't make out every word. And
sorry for interrupting, Matt.
I was so confused.
You could tell Burnham was enjoying herself immensely at the discomfort of Book in that scene.
It was really quite funny, and that was the moment when the two-way conversations were really quite funny too, because he's having this flirt and then he's like, hurry up, this is getting weird.
I like those few moments there. I think there was one in the beginning of the episode, and then the scene that we're discussing now was another, where I think we get more of Sonequa than we do of Michael, where there's a bit of that just complete comfort in the humor of things. I think that's when Sonequa kind of comes through.
So Peter, I think you're back with us. Overall, like your thoughts on the whole crazy hijinks of the heist. Was there anything else you kind of took away, or anything else you want to bring up about the heist?
Yeah. I'm sorry for the connection. I hope I'll be we'll be stable for a little bit longer. So I'll just
we can hear you. We can hear you.
I mean, I enjoyed the heist section. So it's like a little bit like, I think when you mentioned like an Ocean's 11 type thing. I think the one thing that I didn't get or didn't hit me very well was that quick scene during the heist when Book and Michael were kind of talking about their relationship and apologizing for what they've done. And I thought to myself at first, I said, like, you should have done this, on Discovery right after the last episode, and like, now is not the time. So just kind of get on with the mission. I mean, that was the only. I think overall for the whole episode, that was just the one thing that was a little bit odd to me was that place. I kind of know why they did it, because that's really, we focusing on the Michael and Book and them trying to get together, or them trying to realize they were meant for each other.
Yeah.
So each episode has a certain, minute or two that talks about that. So this was that part of that arc, but I just felt it was a little bit out of place. But yeah.
I know we touched on that particular scene for a moment while Peter was away, but back to the earlier comment about Frakes, knowing that this is a Frakes episode, I'm really surprised we had the Michael and Burnham aside scene, just for pacing reasons. Anyway.
Yeah, and I think we need to kind of move on to what was probably one of my favorite moments of all of Discovery. Bendy, nacelle, Voyager-esque kind of colliding into the bay. Jim, what were your thoughts on this scene?
I actually did like this scene. Oh, we have
Did
lost
we
him.
lose Davy? Davy? I think his mouse slipped.
No, I'm here.
Oh, there he
I'm
is.
here. I'm here. I had to go and close the door because my dog opened it.
As I was saying, I did actually like this scene. Like I like the fact that like the setup when Maul catches them, like Burnham gives the age old cliche of the double meaning on the same on the one speech, and gets Raynor to crash into the bay, like and then like the action sequence itself was. I think those effects will hold up until the end of time, pretty much. They were that good.
I agree. That was I had to rewind and watch it again because I find the visual effects in Discovery can be hit and miss. When they're good, they're really good, and this was an example of a really like when it flew in and you could see the like all the explosions and the gravity lifting everything up. And there was that external shot that I wish I had a screenshot of you could just see all this fire and explosion and the silhouette of the Discovery amongst it. And for me, sorry, I'm very passionate about this, but for me, that was like Discovery treating the ship the way Gene Roddenberry always treated the Enterprise as a character, like a character in the show that we love and respect, and it had its hero moment in that scene. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Well, you've seen me kind of puzzling at the screen, and I didn't even realize it until you said it a moment ago about the Voyager of it all. Are my eyes deceiving me in that the
No,
nacelles are not alongside?
Yeah, they bent in to sort of protect, so that they were protected when they impacted with the shield.
Oh,
yeah.
I have to rewatch it as well. I mean, that's really cool. I with this scene, I was more focused on Tilly having the math moment, to quote Amy, and the math's going to work because math doesn't lie, or whatever it was that Stamets said. Waiting for the crash.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a shame Amy's not here to hear you say that.
Oh,
I thought she was going to join us, but she didn't make it home in time.
Yeah, but this deserves a rewatch for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I need to see this sequence again.
It's great.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah,
it's great. And then they kind of collide through the shield effortlessly. And then I think one of the great moments that we kind of got here as well was the big man. The big man takes the seat. So, and this is one of the other great injustices of the fact that they cancelled it after this season. Is I was like, oh, this made me want more Raynor, because I loved the like Tilly kind of going, would you just sit down, stop pacing? You're making everyone nervous. And then when he sat in that captain's chair, I was like, oh, you are a Starfleet captain. This is like you. He looks so good in this scene. But, Jim, what did you think?
Oh my God. I don't think I actually said anything out loud, but I was inside like going, yes, yes, yes. When I saw him finally sit down like that, like it was a season-long thing finally to see him like sit in the damn captain's chair.
100%, right? Yeah,
yes.
And I think like I said, he looked so good in the captain's
Yes, you're right.
chair.
He looks like the epitome of a Starfleet captain.
Yeah. Peter, what about you? Were you as excited about this as I clearly am?
Yeah, no. I mean, I definitely enjoyed his arc from the beginning of the season, and when he was a captain, and then he got demoted, so now he's taking that role again. So it was really good to see it. And actually, one thing that I noticed his style, because there was one scene when he like clapped his hands to get everybody kind of attention, and at the last scene of the episode, he was sort of kind of hitting that control panel. So I think that might be kind of his style when it comes to getting everybody focused and getting everybody all on the same page, is to alert everybody. So that seems to be, because I think that happened twice. But great, and see what happens next. One last episode of how he'll be, because he'll be I'm pretty sure everybody will play key roles in in the rest of the mission.
Someone's got to take over the ship when Burnham ascends.
It's funny you say that, Matt, because this made me feel like I would be all in on a Rayna-led series as the captain of a ship. A non...
We're getting so many ideas for Trek series. It's a shame we won't get to see any of them.
I know, but like a non-human character as the captain, he's a little bit more gruff and rough around the edges compared to some of the previous captains. A little bit loose with the rules at times, but just I think he would hold a series really, really well.
I definitely agree. And around this scene when he took the chair, just to back up for a brief moment, I really enjoyed the part of the scene where just before this, when he talked to Tilly and he said, why do you think I made you my first officer? And Mary Wiseman was just like, I don't know. She was adorable. And then when I think earlier in the scene, she was talking to, oh my gosh, Lieutenant Christopher. And she's like, why is he not sitting down in the chair? Like, hilarious. Absolutely loved it. But I would say if we get more of Rayner, no more wartime reference foxholes. Really? Moving on.
and mentioning the Tilly Rayner relationship, so Jerry in the chat has mentioned that as well, and it's probably in my opinion anyway, one of the better executed arcs of this season is the journey and the trajectory of their relationship, the yin and yang of their styles, but how well they actually wind up complementing each other as a command duo.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's magic. Jim, do you think if we were to see a Rayner-led series that it would have to be Tilly as the first officer?
Yes.
Just yes. Just yes.
Yes. I have nothing else to say on that. Yes.
Well, let's sort of wrap up a little bit with, all right. So we touched on this a little bit earlier. It's the container bounced out, it broke open, a wormhole-y, portal-y looking thing opened. We know that Burnham's there. We know that Mole's there. We know that random Breen character number 3 is there.
We know that Breen scientist guy is there.
And that's right, Breen scientist guy is there. What happens next, Matt Harker?
Well, we know that the 2 Breen are basically red shirts, so I don't think we're going to see them again.
Yep.
I think it's going to be Maul versus Burnham, and obviously the phrase that we can't remember exactly will come up.
Yep.
And I can envision... I think there's going, for some reason, I think that Burnham is going to have to save Maul in some way, because Burnham won't let anyone go.
Yeah.
That's not within her being.
Yeah.
So there'll be some sort of savior moment between Burnham and Maul, where Maul will basically come this close to wrecking it all.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's all I've got.
Kevin in the chat said they have to work together, which may be tongue-in-cheek, Kevin, but I wonder, because you remember in the chase, right? They really weren't... They had to... Like, the Klingons and everyone really had to come together in order to be able to unlock the mysteries of the chase. So I imagine there'll be some kind of teamworky kind of vibe behind that. But Jim, what are your thoughts on what happens next?
I'm only joking when I say this, but I think the founders will be on the other end, and they'll be in the Dominion.
Interesting. And Peter,
I'm
what
just joking on that. I agree with what Matt said. I think it'll be I think it'll be Burnham and Maul having to work together to figure out the solution.
and Peter, what about you?
Yeah, I think that Maul had some hints of a redemption arc on and off over the season, so I think we're gonna end up, she'll have that. I think Locke will be revived, so I want probably will. I think we're going to see that, and we may end up getting into the almost like the portal, almost like the the home world of the progenitors or some other dimension where the progenitors are. So I don't know if they'll be around, but we may sort of really see their maybe their home world or see what ruins or something. So we may have an inkling of that. So I don't know, but yeah. I think Locke will be back. So I still think though we didn't see him the last couple of episodes, but I'm still holding on to that one.
Yeah.
At the end he'll be back. Yeah.
We've already seen their homeworld, the Great Link.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely going to be some. I mean, there's going to be some kind of religious reckoning or something like that. So the progenitors seeded our galaxy with life, right? So, in keeping in mind that the episode, the finale is called Life Itself. So there is going to be some kind. I think we will kind of meet the progenitors again on the other side. Yeah, we will. I would like to maybe get a bit more of a certainty around what actually happened to the progenitors. Whether that's an ascension or they've been watching over this whole time. They really are our gods. Who knows? I hope it's nothing that silly, but you can never truly tell. It could just be a screaming Breen chucking a tantrum who tore a hole in time and space, who then seeded life throughout all the galaxy. Who knows?
Who knows? For all we know, we could see the Great Koala.
It could be the Great Koala. It could be, yeah, that's it. We were all born of the Great Koala's sperm, and here we are.
All I know
Who
is,
knows?
all I know is, Davey, the Great Koala looks great in animation. I'm a little hesitant as to what it would look like in real life, or in
A furry.
Could you imagine if it was the Great Koala, and that's the reason why chlamydia exists, because koalas all have chlamydia.
Do they?
Koalas allegedly all have chlamydia, but who knows? Runs rampant in koalas.
Wow.
And on that note, we've got one more episode to go, folks. So I hope whatever you're doing next week, I hope you get together with some friends or even just in your own happy little space. I bet Jedediah will be in his home theater that we've heard so much about. Jedediah, if you're watching, I want shots of that, please, for the finale next week. I hope we get a massive panel on next week to all of our patrons who have joined in over the course of this season. We want you back next week for Life Itself. We've got a feature-length finale. It's going to go for 80 minutes. We'll probably talk for 3 hours on it, and I'm so
since
excited.
It's the last episode, we better have our longest episode of this limited series.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up, thank you so much to my wonderful panel today. Let's do a quick round of where everyone can find you. I'll start with Peter.
Okay, thanks. I'm on Twitter at PeterTrek1, the number 1, and I'm also at the Trek Book Club on Twitter, and the handle for that one is at Trek Book Club. So thank you very much.
Loving the Trek Book Club. And Jim, where can we find you?
I am in and out of the BQN Facebook group, and I am in the Discord's chat.
Wonderful. And Mr. Matt Harker.
I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at mhark, HARK 957, and occasionally in, let's see, the Federation Facebook group, the BQN Discord, and also the Strange New Pod Discord. And every now and then I'll be on the Trexperts quiz.
As one of my favorite associate producers, mind you. And if you're unfamiliar with me on the BQN, yes, I do host the Trexperts quiz. There'll be a little special going up between now and the end of next week, which will be the season finale of Trexperts Quiz, by the way. And then I am buggering off to Europe for 5 weeks, and the show will be on a hiatus for that period. You can also catch my other show on the BQN over on YouTube or Twitch, which is The Bargain Bin Gamer, spelt Gaymer, where I play the cheapest and shittest video games out there so that you don't have to. My recent video on Star Trek Voyager Elite Force has gone absolutely gangbusters. If you haven't watched it, go and check it out. It's a lot of fun. For the BQN, remember, we want you on the show next week. You just have to sign up to be a patron over at patreon.com/BQN. Or we want you in the chat joining along in the fun. Anyone can do that. So one more episode to go. Jump on the Discord for BQN. The link is in the description to this episode. We've got spoiler chat happening in there. We've got memes. We've got fitness challenge. We've got all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the fun over there. We'll be back next week for life itself. Until then, make sure you live long and prosper, everyone. Peace out.